Welcome, everyone, to God's Favorite Creative Podcast. This is the only place that gives you the blueprint on how to navigate the media industry with weekly episodes from the media industry's biggest game changers. This week, we have a special guest. I consider her a film industry it girl. I'm just putting it out there. We have Okema T. She is an award-winning producer, director, and actress. You may have seen her work on OWN, Nickelodeon, Stars, Peacock, and so many more places. She's also an actress and a singer. And you might have seen her on Amazon Prime's Harlem. She's also been on All Black's Makeup and Breakup series. And you might have seen her last winter on BET's Christmas film, So Fly Christmas. Welcome, Okema.
Hi.
Wait, pull that mug back up. Was that your branded mug?
Yes, from Black-owned Mantra Mugs.
Yes, I am more than enough. I love that.
Mantra Mugs is like my favorite place when I need to get a gift, when I want to buy something for me. So if you guys are not familiar, Mantra Mugs is Black-owned. She is amazing, and she will put almost anything on a mug.
Oh, cute. That's so cute. Well, I really wanted to talk to you because, like I said, I consider you like an it girl. Like when it comes to figuring out like my personal journey, I feel like I've always seen you popping up, like doing so many things. And I'm like, oh my goodness, she's doing this, she's doing that. And it's kind of like, it's just like an inspiration for me. It's like, okay, this is kind of like someone I can like follow or look at the things that they're doing and know that it's accomplishable. Is that a word? That I can accomplish it?
Today.
So I just wanted to put that out there. And I'm really excited to like talk to you more about your career and your journey. I have a lot of questions, but I was like, I really tried to narrow it down. So hopefully people can get a really good understanding of like the things that you've done and how you continue to persevere during this industry.
Girl, it ain't easy.
Yeah, I know.
I swear I quit every week. I'm just still here somehow.
That's probably most of us. That's most of us. So I love to start off with the question of how many years has it taken you to get to where you are? What has been, like, how long has the journey actually been?
Well, let's see. I started on Sesame Street in 84. So 40.
Wow.
40. Actually, I'm sorry, 42.
So you were an actress, I'm assuming, yeah.
So I started as a child actress and singer on Sesame Street. My mom was a young mom, still kind of navigating her own life. She had me pretty young. And so my grandmother, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and they were, they weren't old, but they were older for like that time, right? Like 60 something in the 80s was old. So they were older, about to retire. And so my mother wanted me to like be in all the things that I could be so that like she could figure out her stuff. My grandparents didn't have to watch me all the time. And I'm Generation X. So we were like the last feral generation of children where like on a Saturday morning, your mother was like, why are you in here? And just kind of sent you outside and expected you to come back. And most of the time we did. So I was in all these different extracurriculars, and I wound up getting cast on Sesame Street. I did it for about a season and a half. It wasn't consecutive, but like I would be called for different segments or what have you. And it was a ball. I was a Grouchketeer. I was supposed to be in Big Bird's Flap Gang, but I was a very tiny child. And Big Bird's costume is ginormous, if you know anything about how those costumes are in terms of like ratio. And I was afraid of him. So they put me in Oscar's Grouchketeers, and they smudged a little stuff under my eye, threw a garbage can on my head, and there we were. So yeah, I started in that. Then I moved into music. I was an artist. I was in a group. We toured and opened for everybody from SWV to Intro to Joe. That was around 92 to about 95. We got our deal in 95. I was signed to Tamar Braxton's ex-husband, Vince, in the that didn't work. Well, we put out a single. We had an album. It wasn't released. We got shelved. Then I went to college. I signed with Full Force for a little while. That didn't really materialize to anything. I was like, I'm never doing this again because, dramatic. Finished college.
I was about to say music industry is intense
Well,
So I can only imagine.
back then there was so much happening. And I was in a group for so long, being a solo artist was very scary for me. And unfortunately, I had quite a few Me Too incidents as a solo artist because I really didn't know how to navigate by myself. I had been in a group of first 6, then 4. So I had never been alone. You know what I mean? And so I left music initially in college. When I graduated, I moved to Philly, got back into music, sang for music, Soul Child. Did some studio sessions for Def Soul and a couple of their artists or whatever. But the industry was really, really changing. And I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. Not like this. So I moved back to New York and started doing musical theater. And then I was like, well, I'm going to act. And I was always writing because I was always a journalist. Like before blogs were a thing, I was a journalist. And I was like, well, I know how to write. What if I write what I want to be in? But this again was before DSLRs and camera phones. And, you're talking about 2004. We didn't have anything that we have today back then. So, it was just the trying to navigate the stuff. But once I realized that I could write my own stuff, I was like, well, I ain't got no money. So who gonna make it? I guess that's, I was like, I guess that's me too. Okay, how do I do that? I already had a business degree from Brooklyn College. And I was still paying them back, child. So I knew I couldn't afford to go to Tisch and then have to owe them $160,000 that I didn't have. So I was like, okay. And I took their non-matriculated courses, which were like $8,000. Same school, same instructors, less money, no degree. I already had one, didn't care. So it's right here.
But I'm assuming that also gave you access to like actual camera equipment.
Well, so I got access to camera equipment because I live in Brooklyn. And so I became a certified producer with Brick, which back then was BCAT. Then it turned into Free Speech. And then I started. And then, it all just kind of snowballed. My first network job was 2017. I was working on Wall Street this whole time. So I was working in finance this whole time. I was over it. 2015, I left Wall Street. If you saw Inventing Anna, I was working at Fortress for the global head of sales. I hated it all. I got to a place where I was literally crying every day, going to work, having panic attacks in the bathroom, like it was bad. So I got out. And so I left my very cushy, near 6-figure job to make $10 an hour at 36 as a PA. Because why not? It was hard. Lots of tuna, lots of cereal, lots of brokenness. But by 2 years later, I got my first industry job, which was as an office PA. Then I became a coordinator for the last season of the television show, Oprah's Masterclass. And then it just kind of spiraled from there.
I love that. That was a thorough breakdown. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Because people always ask how I'm like, child, I've lived 18 lives. I'm sorry.
But I think that's like the beauty and also like the downfall sometimes of being a creative and like having to like really not having a full blueprint, like people that are doctors
there
or
was no
certain professions. Yeah.
And it's like the young people today have so much set for them already. We were literally building the plane as we flew it. And so all of the, workshops and all the stuff that's in place today for your teens, your generation alphas, your Gen X's, your Gen Zs, your millennials, that was all created behind us. Trial, error, whole lot of error, more trial, and then the advent of the push of technology.
Yeah.
We didn't have any of that. I've been doing this since before there was a Twitter, a Facebook, before there was social media.
No, you said a lot that also like connected to me and my journey, because that's kind of like when I moved to New York, was it 12 years ago in 2012, I didn't have access to cameras. I went to college and it was like, oh, I had access to all these cameras. And now like I'm out in the world and how am I supposed to like produce projects or film events? So I actually got my start at Manhattan Neighborhood Network, which is public access television.
Telling people public access is the blessing of blessings when you are trying to figure this stuff out.
Exactly. And it's like extremely cheap. Theirs, I think, is actually free, but I know Brick has like a small fee.
Which Brick is free to become.
Oh, it is?
For Brick, I also did this 20 years ago. So I don't know how much has changed, but I know that the orientation, I think literally it might have gone up to $10. But you do an orientation. Once you do the orientation, you then have the opportunity to rent the equipment out. And by rent, it's not a cost. It is, you then have to turn something in. Like what it is, if you take their equipment, you then have to turn in a show or something to show what you've utilized it for.
Yep.
Which is great because they have awards for your work, whether it's on the free speech part of it, which is like the public access. And then they also have a full-fledged multi-Emmy winning network, which is not free TV, which is you have to, pitch and be accepted and then they'll fund it, yada, yada. But I've produced 4 or 5 shows for Brick TV. Several have gone on to like Tribeca, win awards, et cetera, et cetera. So it's
I love that.
It.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth it. But know what you're getting into.
You said what? Say that again.
Know what you're getting into, because a lot of people think, oh, I get my stuff greenlit. It works like any other space. You don't get all your money at once. There's a payout schedule. So know that you need to really have someone that knows how to do the finance part of it, or have your own bank of cash that you can use for production and then pay yourself back as the payouts happen. Because I see too many people that can't finish the project because they don't know how to mete out the funds in a way that allows them to do the work. So just know what you're doing or find somebody who does.
Yeah, that's good. That's so good. So I would love to talk a little bit about you defining yourself as a multi-genre creative. So what does that mean for you, and how do you go in and out of like the different roles and the different genres?
It's so funny. When I first started doing like different things, I had so many Black women specifically tell me that I was dumb. Literally, those were the words. That's stupid. Nobody's going to know what to do with you, because if you do all the things, they're going to think you can't do any of them well. You need to pick one. That's why you're not popping off, because you're trying to do too much. And that came from Black women, followed right behind Black men. I am a Capricorn. I don't care what you think. Okay? Because had I listened to them Black women and Black men, many of whom I do not see in my industry or in my space these days, had I done that, then when the pandemic hit and I was on tour with a musical, I would have been broken. Instead, when the pandemic hit and Broadway shut us down, I then went into post, got nominated for an Emmy on my show. Like, our show got nominated for an Emmy, and I was making enough money without spending any, because wasn't nobody going outside, that I gave away probably about $10,000 that year in micro grants to artists.
That's amazing. Wow.
Because I was able to pivot. So it's like, for me, being a multi-hyphenate, the most important part of being a multi-hyphenate is what goes between the dashes. The work that goes into who you are between those dashes. When I am acting, I am an actor, and I compartmentalize myself for that. And so I'm studying, I'm in class, I'm working with my coach, I'm preparing and prepping. I'm an actor. Like today, perfect example. I'm with you today. When I'm done with you, I have 2 hours to go through admin stuff, go through my emails, pay bills, check that stuff. After that's done, I have therapy, because baby. And then after therapy, I'm writing for the rest of the day, because I have a pilot draft that needs to get back out to my management for new notes. So like for me, I have to break down my time and compartmentalize myself. But I am still, while I have done things on television, I'm still in class. While I am a writer and have written things for TV or what have you, I still have coaches. I still take workshops. I do all of that. While I am building myself to be a director in narrative, because most of my directing is in unscripted, branded, and commercial, I'm getting ready to take the Mojo Academy blocking and directing workshop at the end of this month. I'm always in class. I will be a student until my last breath. because I do not know everything. And because I do so many things, I can't always keep up with the pace of technology and the pace of the growth of the industry. So what for me is important as a multi-hyphenate is make sure you are always learning. You are always studying. You're always practicing your craft, whether it is for pay or not. I have not had a gig since November when I rolled my Stars project, but I've still been creative. Just because I'm not making money don't mean I can't make things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I love all of that because I also had literally that same advice when I first moved to New York, and I had like a business card and it said like model, actress, director. And they were just like, you can't do all of this at one time.
But who said I was trying to do it all at once? I'm just telling you all I do.
Yeah,
you
that part.
Assumption.
That part. So for you though, does it ever get overwhelming? Because I know for me, I just quit my corporate job like last year. So
I know that.
Oh, thanks. So I'm like back into like the freelancer mindset of like managing my time and my energy. So for you, like, does it ever get overwhelming, like really trying to put energy into all the talents that you have?
It does. And when I get overwhelmed, I just stop and don't do anything and I recalibrate. Unfortunately, I went through a really ugly breakup this year. I called off my wedding in March. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my personal life. And it really set me back emotionally. Like I have high anxiety. I've never had that before. Amen. I have a wonderful Black Caribbean therapist who's very much understanding of my culture and who I am. And so she's been a godsend. But because of that, and I only say this out loud, not to tell my business, but to share with people that no matter what you think it looks like from the outside, that's not always what's inside, right? I have been very much struggling this year. This year has been the roughest emotional year for me since 2017. 2017, I had a full mental breakdown, asked to go into an institution mental breakdown, right? And it's also been the most difficult fiscally for me. I'm used to making nice six figures. I think I maybe made very low fives this year thus far because I haven't had work. Fortunately, all of the money I made last year let me float myself for quite some time. And I also have a home with tenants. So I have a backup. Praise God. My grandfather left me this house. And it's been a godsend in this time where finances are not financing. Yeah. But, I'm not who I was prior to calling off that wedding, getting rid of that partner, having to refine myself and redefine myself. I'm a lot more anxious. I deal with a lot more emotional instability sometimes when things are all over. So I'm very conscious and cognizant of that. So like when I'm out in public in big spaces, sometimes I'll have small panic attacks. And fortunately, I have tools to bring myself down, but I also let myself feel what I'm feeling. It doesn't mean I can't do my job because I produced the hell out of this weekend, right? But I also had a panic attack on Saturday. You know what I mean? So I want people to know if you're dealing with mental challenges, if you're dealing with things and you're overwhelmed, it's okay. We all get it. We all experience it. Some people don't want to admit it, but being overwhelmed or being mentally challenged in places and spaces is not a weakness. You are human. We are spirits that inhabit human bodies. So while we can pray and have all the faith in the world, and I don't know, God bless whoever whatever higher power you concede to. Mine is God. I believe little black baby Jesus was born and then he bled and died and rose again. That's my thing. But I take some Orishas and some ancestral veneration on the side of my Jesus. That's just me. But those things help me sustain, as well as my therapist and the tools that she provides me with. So I just say that to say, you don't have to be okay all the time to be great at this job or to be working and functional in this space. You just have to really be in tune with your body and who you are so that when you're not okay, you can stop down, recalibrate, readjust, and get yourself back to where you need to be so that you can make your work, create your work, be a blessing to yourself and others, because we need you. We need your voice. And it's okay if your voice cracks and creaks every now and again because life is lifing. It's so fine.
No, I appreciate that so much, like that vulnerability and you really speaking on your experience, because so many of us are also going through that. And don't want to go to therapy or don't want to like address the actual issues that are happening.
Maybe without therapy, I'd be playing in traffic on purpose. Okay. Like, no, I am a 2-time suicide survivor.
Wow.
And that was in my very, once was when I was a child, once was when I was a young adult. Thank God I was spared. You know what I'm saying? However, I say it out loud, not for sympathy, but for people to understand that you can move forward and past that. So many people were unfortunate enough to succeed. And so if that is something that you have survived, that means you are meant to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you are overwhelmed or the dark thoughts come, even if they're not that deep dark, right? But they're still a little cloudy, speak to someone, find some help, get some support, because we need you. This world needs your voice. All the voices matter, even the ones that are wrong, because you don't have a right if you don't have a wrong. So, like, you know what I mean? And right and wrong is very subjective. So just understand that, like, even if that is your story, you can and you've been blessed to overcome it and not succeed at that particular thing. Like, that is the thing you want to fail at, right? So if you've been able to move forward and move past that, I am grateful that even in all of my mental challenges in the last 10 years, I have not again tried to do that. I've not gotten to a space where I thought it was that hopeless. I have such a beautiful tribe. I have such stronger faith. God is so loud in my ear these days. My spirit is so audible that I know even when it hurts, let it hurt, but know that I will grow through it if I go through it. And so, it's all those things. And I know it might sound a little hokey to some, but this is how I survive. You know what I mean? With my faith and my tools and my therapy and just my tribe, this community, you, Mia, like just inviting me here is such a blessing that I don't take lightly. You didn't have to ask me to come here. And so that is another thing that is validation and confirmation to me that my voice means something to someone. So I have to do what I can to preserve myself so that I can use it in my work and vocally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And you actually answered my next question, which was like, I saw that you posted that opportunity came up that you didn't get and you were like really hurt by it. And so I was like curious about how do you stay resilient through the rejection, or how do you heal through the rejection? And it sounded like you gave me a little bit of that, which is God, being faithful, the therapy, your tribe. I don't know if there's anything else.
For me, I reckon, like, I have a very conservative, very what happens in the house stays in the house parent. Mm-hmm. She hates how transparent I am, but she's now come to understand that that is my personal ministry, and it's not likes, it's not for external validation. It's because we work in an industry where women are often taught that their emotions are weaknesses and they are things to hide and conceal. And so when I started really kind of ascending in my career in certain ways, it was very important to me. And it was very clear to my spirit that my ministry is a ministry of transparency for my wins and my losses. It does not benefit me to hold on to information that can help people. It does not benefit me to not share when I am going through, so other people know you can be progressive and still go through. And so for me, it's very, very important to share and be transparent. I don't really share a lot about my personal business because I don't feel like my life is for complete public consumption.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it's important and it's part of God's ministry for me and my purpose to share the challenges, because I want other people to know you can be challenged and even rejected, but understand that delay is not denial. I didn't get that, opportunity. And yes, I was disappointed and dismayed about it, but somebody I really love, admire, and respect did get it. And I'm so happy for her. And I'm excited for her, like legitimately. And so I know that was not my blessing. That was a part of her blessing. And the fact that I can revel in that with her with no animosity, jealousy, resentment, like for real, for real. And the reason I can do that is because I can own that I was disappointed it wasn't me, but I also can clap and cheer and dance for her that it was her. That was her blessing. God will provide mine when he feels it's due time.
Yeah, no, I'm getting emotional a little bit because like literally, right before, sorry, right before
we as women are going to stop apologizing for having emotions. You don't
no,
have to
that's true.
apologize.
But before this interview, I was like, God, like, allow me to like literally speak through me, allow me to ask the questions that will resonate with people. And I just really want, like, even with the name of this podcast, that for me, like God's favorite creative is a reminder to myself that God is blessing me through this production journey. Like, I am God's favorite. Like, God is blessing me with projects and clients. And so I just wanted the podcast itself to reflect that, and the people that I interview to reflect that as well. Oh, goodness. So, yeah.
But this is good. But that's the whole thing, right? Like, whatever higher power people subscribe to, and I hope that you subscribe to something, because you didn't make the sky blue, right? So I'm not here to judge who you bow to or what have you, but I hope that there is something higher that you subscribe to, because that higher power will continue to put you in space and place to know that you have somebody working on your side, right?
Yeah.
But like, it's important that we share and create space for each other's emotional things, and not emotional dump, not trauma bonds, but more of a space to say, sis, you can lean on me when you need that, if I have the capacity to accept it. And if I don't, I can be honest enough to say, I don't have that capacity at this time, but your feelings are valid and I will check on you. Because we have to make space for each other. The world outside of the creative group is only conditioned and taught to consume what we produce, right? What we put out. They have no idea the pouring back that we need. So we have to exist to have the muscle memory to know, my sister don't look all right. You okay? Do you need anything? How can I support? Or I am not in a place to give you the support that you need in this way right now, but please let me know what I can do to help you when I am in a stronger space. It's important, because what people don't know, like people are watching our show Down in the Valley. They don't know what it took for us to make that. You know what I mean? People have no idea the stress, the struggle when you're trying to make culture, but the network wants to make television. When you like all of these different, they have no idea, but they're not supposed to. They are not supposed to see the whiz behind the curtain. They're only supposed to see eyes. So we have to make sure that when we are behind the curtain, we are making sure that each of us in our own wizardry is being supported and being honest about where we are and what we're dealing with, so that we can love on each other, support each other, point each other in the direction of support to get the things we need if we can't provide them to each other, so that we can continue to make these things for the general public to consume and that they don't consume us.
Yes, that last part. I do want to talk about your most recent project. I mean, you've done so many projects. Like, even in the past 2 months, I've seen like 3 projects of yours drop. So, which is a blessing.
It is. I wish they came with more checks, but here we are.
So, most recently, you were at ABFF and you guys won the HBO Short Film Award for Chocolate with Sprinkles, which was a great short film. It was so good. And then I think, what was this, like the beginning of last month, you went to Essence Fest to also premiere another short film of yours.
No, it was Chocolate with Sprinkles.
Oh, it was. Okay.
Essence was Chocolate with Sprinkles, but also I'm a consulting producer for my sororities documentary, which is Greater Than Ourselves, The Legend of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. It was produced and created and like dreamt up by my soror Tamika, but she unfortunately passed away suddenly 2 years ago. And then last year, the mantle was put onto me to push the project. We just won a Bronze Telly Award for it. And I'm presently shopping for distribution for it, so we can have a home to land in. So that was also at Essence. But the short that I'm presently working on, that I wrote for myself, I did a live stage reading of that at Essence. So that
okay.
pretty awesome. And then at ABFF, we also screened the docuseries that I helped develop for Stars called Down in the Valley, which has run this Friday, is a big marathon of all 6 episodes that'll be on air. So
yes, and that's what I want to talk about, because I did go to the screening at ABFF, and Nico was there, and
acting
Scott
up.
Evans was the host.
Nico and Scott were acting up.
Yeah, they were. It was such a good time, and the episode itself was like, I feel like you guys accomplished everything that, I mean, from the outside looking in, it looked like you guys accomplished what you were trying to accomplish, with showing how these actual people, these actual stories actually exist outside of P Valley. And they are the inspiration for the series itself. Like, P Valley just wasn't created off of like just thoughts and ideas.
No,
you know, these
but
are
the
real
funny
people.
thing is, these people existed before the show. We did not know any of them or their stories for the show. And what it goes to show is that these stories exist in real life, right? People look at P Valley and they think it's all about TNA, and it's like, no, that's just how we get you in. P Valley, you know, when Nico and I were initially, you know, I got hired in January 2023 to develop it with Nico and 0.0, which is the production company that put it out. And literally it was weeks into months of ideating themes and what we were trying to do and putting the deck together. And then I was fortunate enough to pitch the deck myself to Stars. We got the green light, and then we got Shoshana, our showrunner, in, who was also the showrunner for the first season of High on the Hog and the showrunner for 1619. So she knows the culture and she knows this work. She's also been a news producer, so she knows, she is a journalist as well as a director and showrunner. So she was like the perfect person. And so we then began to really find stories. And then for 2 weeks, I was on the road. I convinced them to let my consulting producer come with me. Shout out to Vertical Joe's amazing Joe Torwa. Joe. She actually trains the girls. She has a studio called Vertical Joe's in Atlanta. She actually trains the girls and the guys for P Valley.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She was our consulting producer because that dancer world is her world. And like, no matter how cool I think I am, they're not going to talk to me off the rip just because, right? So Joe was my entry into a lot of those clubs and into a lot of those girls' space. And so I convinced them to let me take her with me because she wants to grow as a producer. And so for 2 weeks, we were on the road, meeting people, scouting spaces, clubs, meeting girls, hearing stories. And because of that 2-week scout, we were able to bring a lot of that back home and add to the opportunities that we were looking for. But that was probably one of the biggest blessings of my career, to be able to be in the process from soup to nuts, because I helped develop the show. I also produced on the ground 2 of the episodes while also working on the production internally. And then I got to story produce and write for my episodes, as well as write some of the VO for the other episodes. So I got to touch the whole thing the whole way through. And that's the first network show that I've done where I've gotten to do that. So that was like major for me. And I'm ever grateful. And to sit under Shoshana and learn from her, to sit with Nico and both teach him and learn from him. And then our team was incredible. And it was so many Black women. It was mainly Black women. And so to sit with these Black women at this very white production company, and make this work was intense, but also awesome. And I mean, this is the same company that helped create Anthony Bourdain. So they may not know the culture, but they know how to tell a story.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was really beautiful, especially because the year before I had worked with Bourdain's actual team for a show that they had created after he had passed called Nomad with Carlton McCoy. So I got to work with that team on that. I helped write and produce that show too. So it was like really awesome how it all kind of just made itself known. And I'm very, very grateful, very grateful.
Thank you for that breakdown. I love that. What would you say was probably like I guess like what from that project, how would you say like your skills were built or like developed? through that process?
I definitely learned patience and heat endurance because, the South is hot.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it was, I think the biggest takeaway for me from a work standpoint was I don't have to do everything. I come from independent guerrilla filmmaking. That's how I started. Yeah. And so I'm used to having to do everything. And it's like, I learned in that process that there's a team for a reason. So if I don't touch it, doesn't mean that I still can't call it mine or still can't claim it. It is a team for a reason. And so if someone else has the intelligence and the experience to knock something out, I don't have to fall over myself trying to do it for why?
Yeah.
I really learned to let go and let the team be the team on this work and not take it as a slight or personally if somebody is doing something that I thought I was going to do, because we are working collectively. I am one cog in a wheel. I am no bigger than the wheel. Like, ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis. Like, it's not, you know what I mean? Like, no one person is above the group, one band, one sound. And so I really learned that, but I also think I did a very good job of continuing my skill set to be the showrunner that I wish to be, in terms of like just morale and ideating and being able to move things around to make it make sense. And if something is not going well, jumping in to make it better without, you know what I mean? It's almost like they say, when you fix your sister's crown without telling anyone it was crooked, understanding. And like, I learned that from acting, because I've definitely been in acting situations where I was in a scene and my partner was kind of not there. It's not for me to then outshine my partner, because then you're robbing the audience, because they came to see a scene, not a monologue, right?
Yes.
It's training that helps you learn that. But my acting training of knowing that it's not my job to outshine anyone, it's my job to make us both look good, even if I'm doing a little bit more of the work. I really learned, I was able to utilize that skill in certain moments and opportunities within that work, because if somebody, like, a lot of us went through a lot of grief during that period. Nico's father died the first week we started shooting. Shoshana's mom was diagnosed with cancer that first week, and literally she just passed away once our last episode aired. I lost, two of my friends in working. Well, I lost my vocal coach, Ankara, on my way to go shoot the Spirit episode. My friend Miles, unfortunately, unalived himself right before we went to go shoot our first week. Like, so we had all been through so much trauma and drama. So it was like, if somebody else can do it, baby, get yourself together, or do it for them so they can get themselves together and come back in. And we really worked, even with the stress and the trauma and the drama, we really had each other's backs, even when we were annoyed with one another, even when we felt like somebody might not have been carrying their weight that day. It didn't matter. We got it done, because it wasn't about us. It was about these people who trusted us with their stories. And it was so much bigger than us as just ourselves, right? And I think that was like my biggest takeaway, that I don't have to do everything if I have a true team, and I can let that team rock out, and I can still say, I lent to this, but I was part of this infrastructure and this ecosystem, and it wasn't just about me.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about all that loss. Would you say, so we have a segment called Biggest Boss Move. So would you say that this P Valley experience has been your biggest boss move, or is there something else that you feel really elevated your career and your grind?
I mean, I think this was one of my biggest boss moves. Will I say that this elevated my career? I don't know yet. But I do know that it has lent itself to me being seen as more of a force in the industry on the unscripted side, for sure. But I think my biggest boss move is coming. I think this pilot that I'm creating will be my biggest move to date, because of its subject matter, because of how I'm writing it, because of how it's strung together. I think that Purses and Floors, the pilot and the series, will be my biggest boss move yet.
Nice. So let's get into our last segment, where I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and you can kind of just, riff and let me know how you feel. So what would you say? What do you regret?
Not betting on myself sooner. I was a partner with people many, many times because I was afraid to do it by myself. And in those partnerships, a lot of the time I was doing most of the work anyway, if not all of it. And so had I bet on myself sooner, I may be further along in this journey than I
Mm. What do you hope for?
am. I pray that I'm able to take my journey, create a create a process that is able to be replicated.
Mhm.
To create more creatives that don't have to go through all that I've gone through.
Mm. And what do you want to manifest and receive?
A job. Okay. What? Um, you know what? My biggest manifestation for now is getting the projects that I'm shopping presently sold to put me back in better financial footing so that I can get back to the giving that I'm used to. I've not been able to give the way I give. I give several thousands of dollars a year to upcoming artists and creatives, and I've just not been in position to do that this year. So my manifestation is to get back on my financial footing so I can get back to the giving that I'm accustomed to.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Okema. I appreciate this conversation so much. And I feel like anyone who's listening is definitely going to take away a few things from this conversation. So if anyone is interested in knowing more about Okema, you can follow her on her Instagram at Okema T More. And also all of her other information will be in our show details. So please definitely reach out to her, follow her, and support her work because she's amazing. Thank you,
How
Okema.
are you? Thank you so much for this opportunity and for what you're doing. And just know that when it gets hard, that just means you're doing it right. The enemy only comes for the things that he knows will get him out of the way. So just know that when it's challenging, it's because the enemy sees the end.
Mm.
And, just like God will see us and sees the end for us. Unfortunately, the enemy was also an angel at one point, and he also has a bit of further purview than we do, or at least has a sense of when we are moving in the direction we're supposed to be. So just know the challenges are because you're doing it right, not because you're doing it wrong. But remember that the enemy also learns from your mistakes, even if you don't. So we have to be on top of what we're doing. But what you are doing is amazing. And I'm very proud of you. And I'm very happy to know you and call you friend.
Oh, thank you.